conservation voters. I'd like to thank our quarterback, Dave, and actually everyone on our team up here. Clearly I'm not the linebacker up here, maybe more of the kicker. I want to dovetail a little bit on what Bill is talking about and really hammer home how strong the connection is between the environment and the economy. I'm here to talk about the Environmental Protection Fund, and just in case you don't know what that is, it's really a centerpiece of the state's environmental efforts. It funds everything from the zoos and aquariums that we all love to conservation efforts, drinking water protection, pretty much everything. For years, we all have been talking about the economic benefits of the Environmental Protection Fund. For example, an economic study that we collectively chartered shows a 7-to-1 return on state funds for investments in the EPF. But after so many years of talking to legislators about the economic benefits, we're really excited about what we see as a sea change going on in Albany. Just a couple of weeks ago, the governor announced the awards from the Regional Economic Development Councils. And what was really interesting to see was the role that the Environmental Protection Fund played in that. Around $23 million in total. They're going to be supporting everything from waterfront development in Watkins Glens, which is up in the Finger Lakes region, to preserving farms out in Suffolk County, to so many different initiatives. So the governor and his team, clearly Albany understands the importance of this. So given its key role in the Economic Development Council and its role in protecting our natural resources, it's time this year to give the EPF the resources it needs. Funding the EPF at last year's level is a start, but it is just a start. And if we want to have the kind of transformative change that New York really needs, we need to do more. The Green Playbook that you can find up by the front there has some really specific suggestions on the EPF. I really encourage you to take a look at that. And all of us here are really ready to roll up our sleeves. Thank you.
Nadine Lemmon with Tri-State Transportation Campaign to talk about transportation and transportation funding. Public transit systems have been hit very hard with this recession. Revenue streams have dried up at the same time that ridership has skyrocketed and expenses have also. In 2010, the MTA was forced to cut 37 bus routes and 2 subway lines. Out in Buffalo, a $15 million deficit has forced the transit agency to decide to make a pretty drastic decision. They're going to be cutting 22% of their service lines. Here in Albany, CDTA is potentially facing a $10 million deficit, and it's not clear how they're going to fill that gap. Especially upstate, when the bus no longer comes, the car is often the only alternative. Underfunding public transit means increasing carbon emissions, which pollutes our air and induces climate change. Albany shoulders a lot of blame for these struggling transit systems. Money that comes from the legislature supports 130 transit systems across the state. Rural systems, suburban systems, city systems. And this money is essential to the millions of people who ride transit daily. 1/3 of all transit trips in the United States happen here in New York State, and we're supporting them. Yet, for the last few years, Albany has been sweeping and cutting its way through budget season, leaving transit riders stranded. Governor Cuomo and the New York State Legislature must step up their support for transit in order to protect our environment and our economy. Supporting transit is about making sure that people have a choice. Making sure that their bus comes every morning, making sure that they can choose to leave their car in the garage. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. I'll wind up with a few words on climate change. Climate change is still arguably the biggest environmental challenge of our time. As you may recall from the governor's State of the State speech last week, the governor recognized the effects of climate change are already upon us. A lot of the flooding that was rampant in New York State back in the fall is the direct result of changing climate. So the agenda, the playbook today, has 3 items that, actually 4 items, that will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions and put us on a more sustainable path. The first is basically establishing an aggressive state goal for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The second is establishing a state goal in the upcoming state energy plan for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then the third is improving a program that's supposed to reduce carbon dioxide emissions from power plants, which is called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. And there are lots of different ways to improve that. Finally, and just to tie into what Bill was saying, renewable energy and clean energy is another important component of the playbook today that will help put us on a road to a more sustainable future. So with that, I want to draw your attention to the back cover of the report because, as you will see, we have our own version of the Heisman Trophy. It says, who will be the MVP for New York's environment? And later in the year, our sister organization will be talking about who really was the green leader, who really tried to execute the plays that we've outlined here today. And thank you all, and now we'll turn it over to questions. You can ask questions to me specifically and any of our panelists.
Maybe this is a question for Nadine or anyone who wants to answer, but regarding public transit and transportation, the governor wants to rebuild the Tappan Zee Bridge, but a lot of people are talking about possibility for mass transit component on that. Governor's folks have said there's very small chance of there actually being a transit component.
There is a large and growing number of organizations and community members that support getting transit on the bridge from day one. It's our belief that if they don't build it now, it's never going to get built. And the community has spent 10 years, 15 years with repeated meetings in the community, 240 or something like that, a huge number. And all of the versions of the bridge that they've come up with all include transit. So we're working hard on this issue. We really believe that the governor should listen to the people. He wore a pin on his lapel at the State of the State address, and it says, "I work for the people." We personally think he should listen to the people.
Any other questions?
How much money are you guys looking for the EPF this year, precisely?
Dan?
Well, last year we had it at $134 million, which was the same as the year before. We haven't set a specific number, but as I said before, I mean, if the state really wants to use it for those things like the regional economic development councils, we're going to have to do more for that. So, you know, that's a good starting level, but we would love to see more this year.
So if it stays flat again this year, would you be disappointed?
Certainly
or
better
not
than
tip your hand?
certainly better than going down. You know, I think it's important to keep in mind. Several years ago, the legislature set up sort of a schedule and to bring the EPF over time to a higher amount. We should be right around $300 million right now. Bear in mind too, you know, so you have less funding promised. The other issue is the backlog of projects and the amount of sweeps that have accumulated over the years. Almost $500 million worth of money that has been sort of IOU swept out into other programs. It's time that we start, you know, if we're going to get serious about this, and if we're going to, you know, really see all the synergies between the environment and the economy, we've got to make a step forward there and start, you know, clearing out that backlog.
I certainly want to remind folks that the Environmental Protection Fund is funded from the real estate transfer fee system. Now, while the economic situation hasn't been great in New York, there is still an awful lot of money that goes into that from folks who are doing land transactions. We believe that the governor certainly should increase it. How much, we're going to see. But if you're looking at all of the critical issues related to the EPF, whether it's land preservation, farmland preservation, zoos, botanical gardens, aquariums, on and on, clearly New York can afford to put a little bit more money into the EPF this year. And if they do, the returns are enormous.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you said in the plan here, it says installation target of 2,000 megawatts from solar panels by 2020. Exactly how many homes and businesses would have to install solar panels to